Hey everyone, it's Martin Schneider, VP and Principal Analyst here at Constellation Research, covering RevTech, Growth Ops, CRM, all kinds of good stuff.
And I'm Larry Dignan, Editor-in-Chief of Constellation Insights, and we're your co-hosts for episode 125 of CRTV.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about the latest news and trends, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So let's get to the news. So let's kick off with what's coming down the pike. Nvidia GTC. It's the mecca of AI. It's the Woodstock of AI. I've heard it called so many different things. I'll be there on the ground with Holger and Ray. And it's going to be interesting to watch because there's been so much talk lately just about AI architecture being more efficient, tokens, how much people are blowing on AI and just various workloads. So I expect GTC to really be focused not only on the latest, greatest chips from NVIDIA, but a lot about the efficiency drive architecture. What are they doing with Grok, which they kind of did a licensing, non-acquisition kind of thing at the end of 2025. But I expect a lot of AI inference talk to happen. And it's going to be interesting. I'll just be kind of, part of it's the obvious news part of GTC, but the other thing, I just kind of want to roam around and soak things in, look for enterprise use cases and all that good stuff. Yeah. What about you, Martin?
Yeah, well, look, I think, it's kind of like the engine that runs things. And it's kind of wild to see, you talk about use cases. I think it's about when you look at kind of tokens versus the use cases versus the enterprise stories, it's like we have to get to this motion where or this point where we're actually defining the use cases properly, leveraging the usage of what we're doing in a way that we're actually drawing at least dotted lines to outcomes. So how we start to see that, because it's in everybody's best interest to get this down to a level of sanity, right? Of where value received for money spent, right? And I think this kind of mania that we've been seeing kind of needs to go away a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see where demand for GPUs and all that comes, because how do we start to just get smarter and start to link some of these things in a way where we're kind of doing more with less. Kind of with less prompts, with less thing, so how do we actually get better outcomes and not just kind of, get to this kind of old world of like one call to one thing? Like, how do we get multiple outcomes out of like a kind of like a single action? How do we support that better? Because again, this cost model and expense model isn't really completely sustainable, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that starts to move.
Yeah, and honestly, if I come out GTC with a better understanding of tokenomics,
yeah.
Jensen Huang goes on that deal where he's, talking about, well, the more infrastructure you build, the more revenue you generate. And I think that's true for Anthropic, OpenAI, and the cloud hyperscalers.
Yeah, but not down
all the other ones, the average bear.
No.
That model doesn't hold up.
No, not at all. It's the opposite, really, right? And that's right. The whole idea. And it's everybody, if everybody's racing to try out this new stuff and say we're doing it because they feel they have to, it's like, yeah, like obviously Nvidia and Anthropic and OpenAI and others are going to benefit in the short term, but there will be a reckoning, right? And I think that's the scary part. I mean, and that reckoning is almost good in the long term for all the other guys, because once our sanity comes back in this kind of, like I said, this kind of bubble and mania goes away. But I just trying to make sense of it, like you're saying. Like, how does that, right. How does everybody, everybody does need to have this and embed this in what they're doing further downstream. But it's, someone's got to pay for it. But it's got to provide value, right? And that's, I think, that's kind of been the question mark, right?
It's proving that. And it's also going to be an interesting week because, GTC is sort of the vendor side of the equation. And then, we have our futures forum, and then we have our AI forum back to back the same week. Yep. And that'll be the buy side. Yep. And, so the actual CEOs and CIOs and business decision makers will get to hear about what they're doing. And I expect a lot of talk about value. I expect a lot of talk about how they're not necessarily getting value.
Yeah.
and just the basics of getting returns out of this stuff. So I think it's going to be an interesting view of both the buy side and the sell side
No,
of
exactly.
AI, and I'm looking forward to just hearing what folks have to say.
Yeah, I think our events are always this really nice reality check because of all the great end users that we have and all the great companies that are there. Because last year at the event, it was very much like agentic was like still pretty new, right? And people are like, well, what is
Right.
this going to do? What does it mean for headcount? What does it mean for cost? What does it mean? People are just kind of trying to make sense of it just in the general of like, what is it going to do? Now it's like, okay, now how are we tying this back to returns, outcomes, value, outputs, things like that? And I think we're going to get we'll probably have some interesting opinions. I wish we could share a lot of that directly, but I think it will definitely influence how we feel, and then I think how we kind of put our research together and our opinions, even if we
Right.
can't do verbatim quotes and name names, but because that kind of event. But it's always interesting to get that kind of in the trenches reality view, and we're really lucky to have great companies and great people coming together to tell those stories very candidly and openly. I think you would think a lot of people wouldn't want to be so revealing because everybody's just doing great with AI and we're early adopters and we've been perfect with, but that's clearly not the reality. And I think when you get those reality checks that that we're lucky to get with the events like AI Forum, I'm looking forward to it a lot because that's where we really, really get the truth. And I think that's the important stuff.
Yeah, I'm expecting to hear a good bit about wrangling and orchestration.
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks have scaled up agents,
Yeah.
and you gotta lasso them things somehow.
Yeah, and it's not just like, oh, MCP and that's not really, it's more than that, right? And that's where I'm talking about, how do we get to this reckoning of less is more, right? And
Right.
start to understand like what are use cases that, instead of like one agent for like kind of job or one agent for like thing done, it's like how do we get to this world of like multiple use cases per agent, and they're kind of doing this and like feeding, like one output actually feeds multiple kind of applications or actual kind of workflows or things like that, so that we can really optimize our spend. That's where I want to see people starting to think and how we can get to that, because that wrangling, like you're saying, and that orchestration, that's going to be the key thing. Because right now agent proliferation is a problem because like anyone can build it, you can do it for like the microest of use cases, but should you is the big question, right? Both from a cost, IT complexity, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, data privacy, security, the guardrails, blah blah blah. The list goes on why you need to be thinking a little more strategically and a little more carefully. So we'll see, we'll see what the people are doing.
And I expect a lot of talk about Anthropic versus OpenAI.
Yeah.
Anthropic, I mean, it's really been nonstop Anthropic in the headlines. It's been, even their battle with the Pentagon is
Yeah.
great marketing. Puts their name on everywhere. Move the Claude app right up to the top of spot on the App Store. OpenAI launched GPT 5.3, which closes the gap on a lot of stuff Anthropic was doing. I think the big takeaway here is this isn't about models anymore. Anthropic and OpenAI are trying to create a vertical integrated stack.
Yep.
Based on their LLMs, but ultimately this becomes a game of agentic systems, and that's where both of them are going to.
Yeah.
And there was something that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella talked about at the Morgan Stanley conference, where he said ultimately the context layer is going to be decoupled from the models. And I think that's where everybody's trying to win. So it's going to be an interesting, and I'll be interested just to gauge what IT buyers are saying.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's. I think he's right, and I think because there's a couple things happening, right? Especially when you go downstream from like perception's reality, and I think still people are seeing Anthropic as like the more enterprise focused one, and OpenAI. They're like, it's like, okay, well we've got Anthropic kind of running, but like our individuals are kind of using OpenAI on the side. Like it's kind of the weird paradigm, right? But to that context layer side, and you talk about a vertical stack, but I also think what we're seeing for people that are not OpenAI and are not Anthropic to succeed is making their own business context layers. We saw Zoho talk about it at their analyst day the other day you and I were at, and that's the idea of building that like business context fabric, right? That's inside your more cohesive app platforms so that you can consume AI better and understand the context within the confines and the use cases of like what you do, right? Are you an ERP vendor? Are you maybe HR? What do you think? And specialization there with that business context, as well as verticalization. You're seeing Salesforce create this kind of like healthcare vertical in a way that they kind of didn't, and maybe they'll acquire Viva or something like that. But like, you look at both this kind of vertical specialization and then this context specialization for what these providers do, divorced from the models, because it's going to be multi-model, it's going to be BYO model, build your own model, it's going to be industry models, it's going to be all these things. So we forget that like the big models are just POCs, right? They're like the grandest POCs, they're global POCs, but at the end of the day they're just POCs, and there's going to be more and more specificity at levels of either size, industry, use case, and the business context layer. You've got to kind of own that a little more, right? So as you get closer to where you're actually using your applications, the vendors that provide you the apps, they need to work on that with you, right? So we're already seeing people do that. So that's kind of exciting.
Well, that's all we have for we could talk about that stuff forever. That's all the time we have for now for the news. But stay tuned. Coming up, we have Liz Miller and the gang at the Infosys Analyst Day from New York City. They'll be giving us an update there. And then Ray's going to walk through his Services-Centric Cloud ERP shortlist. So stay tuned.
Hello, this is Ray Wang with Constellation Research, and as you know, we are looking at the Services-Centric ERP shortlist. Shortlists, as you know, are evaluated. We take into account from our customers. We look at our partners. We try to understand from the vendors where the roadmaps are headed. The Services-Centric ERP model is actually here. It really looks at finance and professional services and really thinks about where that future is headed. Our global forecast for this market by 2031 is $113.7 billion with a 9.9% CAGR. What is driving this market? It's AI, it's automation. Organizations are really looking at delivering on automated process, workflows, and the ability to get to 0 FTEs in the back office. This is one of the biggest challenges. How do we do that with automated processes? And the goal is to figure out what processes can be aligned for full intelligent process automation, the ability to augment the human with the machine, the ability to augment the machine with the human, and more importantly, the ability to touch and use human touch and make that decision making. The future here is really about decision velocity and your ability to take a process and make it work. Now, companies that actually have successful products that are on the shortlist have AI and automation capabilities. They are able to deliver on enterprise financials, grant management, a level of human capital management, and of course, the ability to get to indirect procurement. Professional services are optional, project planning is optional, and of course, travel and expense management are important pieces. There are about 20 solutions here in the market. One of them that's really important, especially going from small to medium enterprise, is the Intuit Enterprise Suite. And I think that's an important piece because most people equate Intuit to just the small business area. What we've seen is really a growth as Intuit moves up market with their Intuit Enterprise Suite, and you're seeing a lot of capabilities that mid-sized companies and divisions of large companies are starting to consider. We'll evaluate the shortlist every 12 months, and what's important to know about this is we're taking those updates and feedbacks, not just from briefings, but a lot from customer input, and of course, from CFOs, CIOs, and operating officers that are using the product. So thanks a lot again. Once again, this is the Constellation shortlist for services-based cloud ERP. And of course, you see Intuit Enterprise Suite on this list. So thanks a lot.
Hi, everyone. We're coming to you live from New York City, live from New York.
Madison Square Garden.
Constellation Research. Here we are. He's going to do the cold open later, but just wanted to pop in real quick and give a couple thoughts from our day here with the team at Infosys, where we got to talk about AI, transformation, and all the amazing things that Infosys's customers have been able to do by really rethinking how they are going to approach transformation. From my end, I mean, not shocking, Mike. We had a lot of talk about data.
If there's going to be 3 key things here for me, because I'm going to say more than data, it was really getting real. We're moving from data foundations to really think about processes where I actually can apply that to a decision. More than just insight, but to actually real decisioning that can be automated and collapsing some of those decision loops, collapsing some of those decision trees. Number 2, we certainly saw responsible AI. Heard it multiple times where responsible AI is an accelerator. It's not something that holds you back, but gives clarity, especially for regulated industries, about how they can apply AI such that they can move forward faster. And that I actually think a lot of people are nodding their heads on. And third, it was almost like data, I would almost say Data Foundation is a joint development tool. I mean, this is where you saw folks here at Infosys working with their customers, building out very specific, domain-specific solutions accelerated off their Topaz platform. And I think that we're seeing that really starting to play out. You're seeing customers really talk about that acceleration. Clearly there's things learning going on. There's some templatization that's starting to mature. And so I think we're starting to see that step up happening with the global SIs.
I gotta say, the thing that really caught my attention was just how many times we talked about governance here. And I wanted to stand up and cheer, because if any organization is going to come back at us with really important conversations around governance, it's going to be Infosys. I mean, this is an organization that has a reputation, a deep reputation for solving problems. We're talking customers who have been with them for over a decade, solving some of the deepest problems of when it comes to digital transformation. These aren't pie in the sky, I want to go solve something that may or may not happen. This is, I've got a problem, I'm going to solve it now. And they continue to come back to Infosys to keep solving those problems progressively and reliably. And I think a lot of that starts with the fact that they just fundamentally think about data differently, they think about technology differently, but they also think about all of the partners who have to come together to push everyone to a common goal. Ray, what's that for you?
I think it's important to realize that what we saw today, and we can't name the customers that were here, but there's a difference between expertise and experience. What we have here is expertise is a commodity, but we have heavily experienced individuals that are here talking about what they're doing in each industry. Now, why is that important? Because you need that process depth. You need that industry depth in order to build this stuff very quickly, and that's what's going to separate the winners from the losers. The second piece is important is you have to have a platform to work with. You can't start from scratch if you're going to do the governance that Liz was talking about. If you're trying to get to what Mike was talking about on decisions, the platforms are going to make a difference, and those with the right platforms are going to accelerate much more quickly. And the last piece is something we're spending a lot of time talking about, and this is really the difference between speed and velocity. Speed, you're spinning around like this. Velocity, you're moving into direction. What is so important in a world of infinite possibilities with AI is that we have to be able to think about our order of operations. The precision in order of operations is more important than ever. Why? This is a winner-takes-all market. The first person to get to that market is going to take 60% of the market share, the next person 20 at best, and then after that, it's a scramble for the rest. And so you need to know what you're going after in this marketplace if you want to win, and that's what we saw on stage.
What, you're saying choice equals strategy again?
Oh man, it can't boil down to that, but it can boil down to this. Thanks to the team at Infosys for inviting us. Yeah. Thanks for having Constellation here. We truly appreciate it. Now, who wants to go watch some hockey?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, well, that is a wrap on episode 125. Wow, of CRTV. Okay, we'll watch for our next episode in 2 weeks.
That's right. Co-host Holger Mueller and Liz Miller, the Miller Muellers. We'll bring you episode 126 of CRTV. In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn and on X at ConstellationR and hashtag CRTV show.
And as always, make sure you're subscribed to Constellation Research TV on YouTube, and also go to constellationr.com. Go to our website. It's a brand new website. It's looking great. There's a couple really cool things there. There's our insights that Larry puts together. He's always on top of pretty much everything important that's happening in tech. So not only do you get the news, but you also get Larry and some of our takes on it that we contribute. And then also his new thing, the Notebook. It's just fast takes and rapid takes on everything that's happening right when it happens. He's like a real-time machine. It's amazing. So make sure you're checking that out. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. So I got my start on TV. My first television appearance was singing Ethel Merman with Mark Summers on Double Dare.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not lying. And it was funny because my brother sent me some weird, like random, like Reddit, like link or something about him recalling singing show tunes with a weird kid on the show. And I was
that was a show like it was like Dancing on Air, right? It was kind of a
no, Double Dare was a game show.
Yeah, but wasn't it like a regional show, or was it a national?
Yeah. It was based out of Philly.
Yeah.
They filmed it at the WHYY studios.
Well,
So,
you'll need to send a clip of that to the water cooler.
I don't know if it exists. I mean, it exists, but like, I don't know. Someone's got to find it. It's probably on a VHS, like in whoever bought the shit that we sold when sold my dad's house.
So fun fact, I went to college with a kid who dated Kelly Ripa. Yeah, and he was so into her, like he had a poster of her. And then like sophomore year, she got that gig at All My Children or whichever
Yeah, she
soap
went
it
from
was.
Dancing on Air to like whatever the soap opera was. And
She literally got the audition, got the gig. Her next call was to Matt to break up with him.
you're like, fuck you, I'm out.
I mean,
He's recovered now, I think.
I'm sure.
But
Just-
the last 2 years of college, dude, his whole heyday was he used to go with Kelly Ripa. And then, you know, she went crazy and, you know, hit it big. All right. So I guess we're
well, on
ready
that
to roll.
note, I'll hop off and you guys start at any time.
And Hannah's learned far too much this episode already.
Right.
Just a bunch of references I wouldn't know because it was before my time.
Well, it's before your time, and it's uniquely like Philadelphia,
crap,
South
yeah.
Jersey.
Yep.
Oh,
Like those shows we mentioned, they were just like Philly and what, you know, they were local shows.
oh. Then yeah, I would have no idea ever. So Martin, do you want to be on the left?
I like this side.
You like the
This is
right?
the good side.
Okay, all right.
I don't. Yeah, whatever. All
I'm
right.
just gonna throw everyone off by going right to
Yeah, I
left,
know.
and left to right.
Do people actually care about that?
Does anyone watch? And I'm Larry Dignan, Constellation Inside. Bleh. Do that again.
Let's start again.
That's right. Coming up, bleh. That's right. Let's do that again. I'll be a little more enthusiastic this time.
All right. All right. 125. Right. Okay.
6.
No.
Coming up. Oh no,
Okay.
wrap on
Yeah,
125.
that's right. Don't
Right.
forget. God damn it. All right.
Never mind.
I'm not doing all this again. All right.